Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and doing a video that I promised would come after I finished my vinyl videos. I finished them, 16 videos.
And, I have to get caught up on that because I think I left off at number 11 or something like that.
It took me 16.
It took you 16. Well, I'm proud of you.
But without the 7 inches. I didn't even touch the 7 inches yet.
Oh, well, yeah. Make sure you do that. Sorry, excuse me.
A video that I promised would be coming where I just sort of talk about with my good friend Derek here about some audio equipment, whether it be amplifiers, some headphones, or turntables, styluses and cartridges, speaker wire, things like that. Basically, what to look for, what brands to look out for, as well as maybe even kind of doing this whole thing on a budget. Derek is the biggest audiophile I know, and someone who, if I hadn't met, I wouldn't, maybe even be into the music that I'm into, and most definitely would not have the speaker setup that I do, because much of it came as a recommendation from him. So, a lot of people after my headphone video have been asking tons of questions on headphones, and that's seriously in an age of where music is very portable, a very important piece of audio equipment. So, out of all the pieces of audio equipment that we will talk about in this video, I think we'll definitely start there. I mean, Derek, what do you recommend in terms of headphones, what to look for, and, what to avoid?
First of all, there's a lot of debate, or not debate, but there's two sides of the headphone. Do you want ear side? Do you want sound like isolation, or do you want just a studio quality headphones? What I would recommend is first off avoid your anything in the $300 to $500 range that really is a hype. And yes, I'm talking about the Beats by Dre. Very inexpensive material. You can buy comparable headphones for much less as far as quality goes. But also, audiophile has a kind of label to it that you're spending way, way more money in general than you need to. It's kind of a half-truth. People with a lot of money tend to spend a lot of money on anything, but you can be an audiophile and not spend a lot of money on things. A big headphone model that I'm a fan of, and that is well under $150 now, is the AKG K240s. They've pretty much been the standard studio quality headphone for years. I mean, my pair is over 30 years old. It's actually survived a flood too. There was a flood in my basement about I think 15 years ago, and it was funny because I remember leaving the headphones just lying on the floor of the basement, and about an inch of water came down, and they survived. I took them out, left them out to dry the next day, and they survived.
But the thing is, okay, the AKG makes kind of a rule of thumb, gold standard audio production quality brand of headphone that is around $100. So does Sennheiser, and so does Sony. And they're comparable. They're comparable brands. So I mean, if you run into those models as well, or if those models have either the noise cancellation you're looking for, or just the fit and the comfort that you're looking for, as opposed to the AKG, you could go for that too. Because a lot of people have asked me, and I said to you before the video, like, I'm not enjoying music properly unless I'm paying X amount of dollars for music, whereas that's not necessarily the case. I mean, you don't need to spend $1,000 on a pair of headphones to hear the power and the detail in a song by Godspeed You Black Emperor. You don't need to spend $1,000 on a pair of headphones to hear how heavy Sun is.
Absolutely.
You don't need to spend $1,000 on a pair of headphones to hear the solos note for note in a jazz record from the 50s or 60s, or hear the raw energy in a punk record.
You're gonna have to figure out what you want for a fit and for sound. Because we can talk about sound and quality, what it means to us, but at the end of the day, the golden rule of being an audiophile is your system, your setup, only has to sound good to you. Doesn't have to sound good to anybody else but you.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, Derek, when I knew him and first came over to his place and was listening to records, he always had those AKGs, but then later I got introduced to them working in radio stations and, you know, working with Sonys as well and Sennheisers, and out of trying those three, I mean, the AKGs are just the ones that had the best fit to me and the most clarity, and I just ended up sticking with them, and, just figured, and wasn't surprised as to why you had been with them that whole time. Okay, so moving on, another thing that people ask me about all the time, just more and more and more, and it seems like there are tons of models of these coming out every year that are USB ready, or supposed to be, taking your records and then transferring them straight to digital as soon as you put them on the platter. Record players. People ask me about record players all the time. Record players, what brands are great? What should you look for? What should you avoid?
Okay, this is more of a cost-related product record players. You definitely want to avoid anything under $100. Period. It's not going to be a good record player. You to really get a decent record player that has key features you need, which includes an adjustable counterweight so you can adjust the weight of the tone arm. Removable head shell and cartridge so you can change the needle easily and use a higher quality needle than what comes with it. And also variable pitch adjustment, to adjust for variations in pitch that may occur over time, or or compensate for occasional malfunction of the record player. And then also the weight of the platter is very important too. The weight of the platter basically stabilizes the speed, so it doesn't fluctuate as much, and that's referred to in electronics terminology as wow and flutter. My favorite turntable right now that's USB capable is the Stanton T92 USB. It's a $240 turntable. Comes with a stellar entry-level DJ cartridge. A lot of audiophiles will say, well, this is a DJ turntable, it has a DJ cartridge. Well, it's good for starting out, and DJ cartridges nowadays are designed for minimal record wear. So you can definitely start out with that and move to an audiophile cartridge because it has a standard S-shaped tone arm with a standard cartridge mount. So that means you can upgrade your cartridge later. And you have the adjustable counterweight to do that. It also has 3 modes of output. It has USB, it has traditional phono level, which goes to the RCA plugs that you may be used to on an older CD player, but the sound level is much lower than what you would get out of a CD player. So it has your traditional phono level, and it has a built-in phono preamp, which allows you to bring it up to the level as the same level as what you would hear out of a CD player or an older tape deck. That is a USB turntable that I can definitely get behind. Another model that I'm particularly fond of is the Audio-Technica ATL 120 USB. That's a great turntable. It's modeled exactly off of the Technics SL 1200 series, which is now no longer in production. And of course, when that happened, the value of that turntable doubled. But that particular turntable adds 3 speeds, which is important to me because I collect 78 records from the post-war 1920s to the 50s. They basically took the Technics model and then they stripped it down with a little bit cheaper parts, but it's still got a great stellar sound. However, in my experience, I will warn you, do not take out that stock cartridge in the ATL 120, or it's going to have a slightly different sound. It's going to be a limited sound, which is why the slight edge goes to the Stanton T92, because it does everything that the Audio-Technica does. It doesn't come with a dust cover, but you get a much clearer sound out of any cartridge you put into it.
All right, and where would people shop for an item like this necessarily? I mean, is there an online place that you would suggest? Are pawn stars even pawn stores, or pawn shops even trustworthy, for an item like this?
Well, a pawn shop would be good as long as they allow you to test it out there, make sure that the platter spins at a steady rate, that there's no damage to the tone, that it moves freely, and of course that if you don't plan on purchasing a cartridge and needle separately, that the needle is intact. As for online retailers, you can go for the Stanton. It's very widely available. I bought mine in person at a Guitar Center, and that was an excellent purchase because it was open box and I got a deal on it. Mm-hmm. But you can also try needledoctor.com. They have a lot of high-end stuff. They also have a lot of mid-range stuff too, if you're looking for that. For the Stanton, also, you can buy that Pro Audio, because that's one of the things that's studio quality, but also marketed towards the DJ market. So you could also pick that up at Pro Sound, PSSL.com. They're an excellent retailer. I like to get all my crossover studio pro gear from.
If you can't find something at a pawn shop, you may have to go online. Around the early 2000s and mid 2000s, it was a bit easier to get a hold of a good turntable at like a music shop like Guitar Center, because DJ culture was on the rise, and people were using that equipment to DJ, and they were selling that equipment, and they were making sales on it. But the thing is, DJ culture is assimilating to the digital age, and you're seeing iPad DJs and iPod DJs and just MP3 DJs, CD DJs, and so it may be harder at a smaller music store to get a hold of a really good turntable, unless you see a bigger music store, a bigger music specialty store, then you may be able to get one there. But if you can't find one at a pawn shop, just like you said, hit up those websites, try to look for a turntable there. Now, if someone has gotten one of these turntables and they're with the cartridge that comes with it, and they want to step up a little bit with the stylus or the cartridge, what brands would you recommend beyond what kind of just comes with the record player?
Shure. That's SHURE. They're more famous right now for their microphones, but they have a mainstay cartridge, a DJ cartridge, the M447, that comes with a very durable stylus with very minimal record wear. That's been around for a while. They also have a studio audiophile line. Their M97XE is a very excellent cartridge and a very excellent pro level stylus at a very approachable price, or a very acceptable price. Grado is you're getting up there when you get to Grado and Ortofon, very high end stuff at that time, at that price range, but it's very high quality and very respectable in audiophile circles. But if you want the best bang for your buck, stick with the Shure M97XE.
And, one more thing before we move away from the record players. I'm sure people are going to be running across record players of both kinds, especially if they're looking for older and more used models. P-mount versus, just a regular mount, does it even matter for people, or a straight arm or an S-shaped arm?
The S-shaped arm is going to be more common when you get to turntables that were made in the 80s. I would avoid most P-mounts that you would see in the 80s, just because that implied that it was a lesser quality turntable back then, and it's likely that it's the same now. Brands that I would recommend as far as used turntables go, Technics, any of the Technics line from the 70s and 80s, if you see that, it's pretty good. Even the P-mount stuff is good for an entry level when you're with the Technics, because they ruled the roost back then. Also, when you're getting older, like into the 70s, Thorens. If you want to go eBay, it's going to be unlikely you're going to find a Thorens or a Dual in the in Goodwill these days, because most of them have been scooped up. But if you have a little bit more money and want to get a little bit more higher end for the old stuff, definitely go to eBay and get a Thorens or a Dual. But stuff that you're going to want to be looking for when you're out at tag sales and Goodwill, I'd say Technics all the way. Also Pioneer. Pioneer has been around for a while, and they made some excellent turntables.
All right, moving on past the turntables, if you think we've covered this base enough. If you're going to get a turntable and it's not, a USB turntable or something like that, you're going to most definitely need an amplifier.
Yeah.
So I mean, with amps, hi-fi amps, what to look for, what to avoid, what brands are great, and, how much are you going to pay for, to get that certain level of quality that you're looking for.
Amp is probably the most important piece of the puzzle. Normally it'd be speakers, but we are talking about, more of a headphone setup. Which actually lowers the price of what you would need to pay for an amplifier, and it also bumps up the level of importance of your amplifier. Personally, it depends on your price range. That's what I would say. If you're a little strapped for cash, you can hit up your Goodwill tag sales for used gear. One thing you would definitely want to avoid is the old combo record changers and amplifiers from the 70s. They were not kind to the records. They don't have adjustable counterweights in most of the, in most options with that. And also the most of the tuners and receivers that are built in underneath the turntables are in bad shape. You want to mainly look for standalone units, highest end, but what are probably going to be hardest to find: Marantz, Sansui, to a lesser extent Pioneer, but older Yamahas are pretty good too. And also another one hard to find, but a good brand if you can find it, the older Onkyo receivers and integrated amplifiers.
All these brands are making newer amps as well, or is there a newer one that you would recommend? Or?
Some of them, and some of them have switched their quality levels too. Two mainstays that are still popular today and actually make very good hi-fi stuff still is Onkyo and Marantz. You can pick that up even at PC Richards kind of thing, because they're a popular outlet now. But also for higher end, if you want to go new, you can go Music Hall is a very high-end brand. Teac has been making high-end, small integrated amplifiers for a few years now, and some of them have USB connectivity, which is nice because you don't have to. You can the digital converter in the Teac is going to be a lot better than what you're going to find on the onboard sound card on your computer.
So I mean, what would you say an amp, like an entry-level amplifier, would run you? If you were looking to get one of these brands, something that's going to give you a little bit of bass in your speakers and just heavy sound, a nice full sound.
I would say about $300 to $500 is an acceptable amount to spend on new equipment. I would definitely avoid surround sound. Of course, not unless you plan on actually using it for surround sound. I don't feel that surround sound receivers handle hi-fi very well. They seem to be, even though they'll work with your setup, work with your computer, and everything else very well, as far as features go, as far as the sound goes, it's really tailored for the home theater market. And you could spend the same amount of money and get a hi-fi unit that was specifically designed for that purpose, and it will sound much better.
All right. Let's go to speaker wire, since that's going to be bringing everything together pretty much. I mean, one of the easier and things to come by and one of the cheaper parts of the puzzle, but something that, you need to look into a little bit, if you want everything to actually sound good.
Yeah.
Because everything can sound pretty thin and cheap if you're not getting the exact right thing.
Yeah. The only thing you need to worry about speaker wire is gauge. You need to make sure you have a thick enough gauge for the amount of power you're running. As far as brands of speaker wire, Monster Cable is one of those gimmicks, that you're going to spend a lot of money on and not really get much bang out of it. Speaker wire, but the physics, underlying, what is going through that speaker wire is going to say that if you have a powerful stereo, if you have a powerful receiver, you're going to want thicker gauge speaker wire. And with speaker gauge, it's important to note that the smaller the number, the thicker the wire is, because it's based off of American wire gauge. So I would definitely stick to 14 or 16, nothing smaller than 16.
Okay, and I guess from here we should go to speakers. You know, just like with amplifiers and turntables. I mean, what brands are the best? You know, what kind of wattage should we be looking for? You know, anything else? You know, to kind of say about speakers.
Well, your speakers should have a peak wattage that's higher than your amplifier to reduce the effects of damage to those speakers. That's the first thing you need to worry. You need to be conscious of. The second part is the brand. Brand is very important in a speaker. KLH, I believe, is still around. Polk Audio, Boston Acoustics. Those are your higher end brands. A lot of the speaker depends on the weight too, which is kind of hard to judge through online shopping, because not all online retailers list that kind of thing on their websites. But if you're going the used route and want to go to Goodwill or a pawn shop kind of thing, and give the speakers a lift. They should be at least 15 pounds each. For floor standing speakers, at least 5 pounds each for bookshelf to have any bit of quality. And also remember that the cabinet is just as important as the magnet inside. You want to have a cabinet that's made of real wood, not particle board. That's hard to find in newer speakers, so spend the extra if you can on speakers that have, real wood as a cabinet.
All right. Anything else to kind of note about speakers? Maybe a price range or something?
The price range of speakers, I would definitely not spend any more than a few $100s for a pair. I don't think that you don't have to specifically spend a lot of money on speakers. And the thing is, the speakers are the easiest thing to buy used because they typically are the most common. And they're also they stand up to the most. They'll last the longest out of all the other equipment that we've talked about today, for the sole reason that they're purely more simple in construction and operation.
All right. I mean, we've touched upon, pretty much every major part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, I just wanted to mention as a final thought, being an audiophile, being into quality of sound, can be anything that you want it to be. If you have a lot of money, you could spend a lot of money and be an audiophile tomorrow. But I feel that the real way to be an audiophile is to build up your system from smaller pieces. So go out and buy that, cheap $10 receiver that's, collecting dust at Goodwill, and then decide that you don't want that anymore and bump yourself up. I mean, the thing is, buy things that have the features you want and then adjust it to your tastes. And then that's one way you can do it on a limited budget. So it is what you make it.
I mean, you could probably go out tomorrow with several $100s and, buy yourself some speakers, a little tiny amplifier from Radio Shack or something like that, and maybe get, another piece here or there for free and just string something together. In order to have a hi-fi system or be an audiophile, you don't have to have the best system on the block tomorrow. I mean, in order to be into this kind of thing, it's something that you just slowly, teach yourself about over time.
Yeah.
Just because you have, a system that may be just okay if you gathered up some cash this week and got it together by next week, that doesn't mean that's a system you're always going to have.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you're enjoying music any less than anybody else just because your system isn't the most high-end that that's out there today. You wanted to mention one other amplifier brand. What was that?
Harman Kardon.
Harman Kardon?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We are going to turn toward the system that I have together.
Okay.
Which I told you guys just, in my opinion, gets the job done. It works for my purposes. So first, let's tell them about the receiver. I have a Sansui stereo receiver, 771, that came at recommendation of you.
Yeah.
Why this amplifier?
Okay. Okay, I can do that.
Okay, do it.
Oh, are you recording now?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Oh, I didn't see you hit record.
Yeah, I hit the recording again. So we've been recording.
Shit. Sansui 771. Okay. I had one of these when I was a youngin. I think when I was like 10 years old. It's a good little receiver for not a lot of money.
Started at 10.
What?
No, I'm just saying, at 10 years old, you had a Sansui receiver.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've been building up my stereo for probably, 20 years now. I don't know. I kind of lost track. Well, I had the fortune of growing up with it too, so it's been a work in progress. But the stereo and what I've had, it's probably been 20 years. Yeah, probably been 20 years. But the Sansui 771 is great because it has two auxiliary inputs. It has aux 1 and aux 2, which is good for, your MP3 player, your computer, things like that.
I mean, that's how I use it.
Yeah.
I have phono I have the record player and the phono.
Yeah.
I have the computer and auxiliary 1, and I have auxiliary 2 if I want to hook up my MP3 player, something like that, up into it.
Yeah. And phono, I want to mention that for those of you looking to collect or looking to buy a turntable, your amplifier, if you have a turntable and it does not have line level output, you want to make sure it has a phono stage input. Basically what that means is phono line level or phono level input is a lot lower voltage than your normal line level output. That's because records require a certain equalization that's only brought out by a special amplifier, most commonly called a phono stage preamplifier. Actually all older equipment that you're going to find has that. Newer equipment, you're going to have to specifically look for that feature, built-in phono stage. But of course, if you have a turntable that has line level output, and your turntable will tell you, or the packaging will tell you if it does, you do not have to worry about that.
So I mean, there are some other features on the front of this thing. There's a loudness feature. There's mono. There are different filters for highs and lows. There's the auto muting. Of course there's a radio tuner in there as well.
Yeah, the auto muting goes with the FM tuner. Basically, it's a way to mute static on weak signals. So basically, what that means is your FM signal has to be of a certain strength for audio to even come in.
So you're not going to just be getting nothing but through the speakers as you're searching for the radio station that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And of course there's a headphone out, there's a microphone in, and there's not just what I want to say is there's not just outputs in the back of the amplifier too. There's an input or two as well. So if you want to do some recording,
I think
back to a unit,
you switched it around. There's a lot of inputs, but there's a couple outputs.
There's a couple outputs as well. So if you want to do some recording to your computer that you have in one of the auxiliary ports or something like that through the record player, which I've done numerous times. I've digitized records by playing them on the record player, running them through the amp into my computer, and then recording the audio that way, turning it to MP3 if I didn't happen to get a download or something like that from the purchase that I made with the record player.
Yeah, that's how I do it. I use my receiver as kind of a switching point to route audio from a number of different sources, tape, reel-to-reel, record, to my computer for archiving.
All right. Next, the record player that I have, which out of the whole bunch is maybe the rarest thing that I have here, because you were telling me that, we both found out that they don't even make them anymore.
Yeah, he has a SL12 or Technics SL1200 Mark V, which if we were to take the value of that turntable, it's worth more than any of the hi-fi stuff he has, probably excluding his Macintosh computer. It's definitely worth more now, because when they stopped
and I got it for free.
And he got it for free. I mean, I was jealous of him when he got it, but of course the turntable doesn't really, or his turntable doesn't really do much for me because it's only 2 speeds and I collect 78s. But I can guarantee you, mostly everybody watching this will not be collecting 78s anytime soon.
It's true. It's true. It's only 2 speeds. To be completely honest, it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. It has, it doesn't even have an automatic, lift of the tone arm if you want to drop it or pull it up off the record or down. It just has a lever.
Yeah.
And it does have pitch adjustment, but not a really wide range. Of course, it has 33 and 45, but it's a tank. I mean, it's one of the heaviest record players still today I've ever picked up.
He's probably not going to have to buy a record player again because of the fact that was made to be on the road. That was made to be a DJ turntable, and he's using it as a
just regular personal use.
Yeah, hi-fi turntable in his home. It's going to last him forever.
Again, the thing is a beast. It's just really, really functional and sturdily built, and it's a direct drive as well, which a lot of people have said to me in the past, with the direct drive, especially with the gears, it's not a belt drive, it's a direct drive. You're going to get a lot of noise, but I have not expected that. I've not experienced that at all with this turntable. I've made numerous, recordings of records with this turntable, and, there's really no static or noise in the background or anything like that. And I've passed some of the recordings of my records to you, and you said yourself that the sound coming from it isn't bad.
Yeah, your cheaper direct drives are going to have that problem, but not a Technics SL1200 or even the Audio-Technica I mentioned and the Stanton I mentioned. I mean, those are both direct drive turntables, but they're both medium high range. You're not going to have that problem. If you're going for the less expensive, you're going to most of the time not have any choice but to get a belt drive.
All right. Of course, on that record player, I have the Shure cartridge that you recommended to me. That I've been using that same cartridge too for a while as well.
Yeah. The M447. It's a cartridge designed for DJ use, but actually works very well in a home studio setting. It's got a very high level output. It will play through damaged records, so if you buy a lot of used records at Goodwill or wherever, it'll play through mostly anything, and all with minimal record wear. It does give you a little bit of a boost on the highs and lows, so if you're looking for a warmer, purer sound, the M97XE that I mentioned earlier will probably be a better choice. But for everyday use, you can't go wrong with the M447, and especially with a price of $60, you can't beat that. Best bang for your buck.
All right, and what's easily maybe the cheapest pieces out of my entire setup, my speakers. I have 2 Fisher speakers, floor standing speakers on the bottom. Let me see, they're STB 827s. And it says the impedance is 8 ohms. The input power is 10 to 100 watts.
Yeah. That is, that's pretty standard wattage power handling for speakers that age. And that was another scenario. He just found them in Goodwill.
I found them for $25 in Goodwill, and they were, you still see the speaker wear on there. I mean, the outer box itself has a little bit of wear. While they don't give me a lot of highs, that's pretty much why I have the bookshelf speakers to kind of make up for that.
Yeah.
Which are Jensen's.
Yeah. Those tweeters aren't very small, and I can definitely say from the years that I've listened to these speakers, that they're not very good on the high end, but I mean, for $25 you still can't go wrong. And that's the thing with most of the older equipment, like the Sansui we talked about just earlier. You could have multiple sets of speakers hooked up at once and have the sound go out to all of them.
This one, this particular amplifier has A, B, and C, and then it has a setting for A and B, and then it has a setting for A and C, or
yes, that's absolutely correct.
So the thing is, if you have one pair of speakers that don't sound perfect, maybe you're getting a lot of highs out of them, or you're just getting a lot of lows out of them, you can just grab another pair of speakers and then balance that out and get both sides of the spectrum that you're looking for.
Yeah, if you have a respectable pair of studio bookshelf speakers, which are really popular right now because of the whole, personal computer and producing from home kind of setup, those are definitely the way to go. You'll get a lot of lows out of that technology because the speaker technology has improved greatly, and studio monitors are really a really good bang for the buck.
Okay, so we pretty much run through my setup. We run through pretty much everything that we could say about speaker wire,
Yeah.
the amplifiers, speakers, and turntables. Anything else that you think we should touch down on? You know, and price as well. You know, you don't need to spend a ton of money. You don't need to spend an arm and a leg. You don't need to spend $2,000 just to get a good stereo system.
One thing that comes to mind is the amplifier brand. I did forget Harman Kardon.
We recorded that.
Oh, we did.
Shit. Anything else? Anything else you just say other than how great of friends we are?
We are great friends. Yes,
We've
of
known
course.
each other since high school.
Yeah.
Since like junior, sophomore year.
Yeah. No, it was freshman year for you.
Oh yeah, for freshman year when we first met.
Yeah, that's because I was.
Yep, you were in health class.
I was held back.
In health class. But whenever I've made mention of Derek in a video, any video, this is the guy I've been talking about.
Yeah, that's me.
And you know, and that's it. You know, he was gracious enough to come on and sort of share with you guys what he has told to me and taught me over the years. And you know, I don't have a really expensive stereo system, just as I have shown you guys, but it gets the job done for me, and I'm able to listen to an extraordinary amount of music on a regular basis without any kind of, you know, annoyances or issues. I mean, when he says everyday use, for me, I mean literally every day I'm listening with this equipment, and I'm not running into any issues with it or anything. And you know, sometimes I'm listening all day, you know, almost 24 hours straight, you know, with, you know, eating breaks or, you know, actually making a video or something like that, and you know, still it holds up. So I mean, this works for me. You know, the trick is to go out there and find what works for you. He's given you the amp brands, he's given you the brands of turntables, he's told you what you need to know about the speaker wire, he's told you the price ranges to look for. You know, spend this much if you want something good. Of course, if you find something underneath those price ranges at a pawn shop or at Goodwill or at a tag sale that works for you, then pick it up. You know, it'll get you by for now until you have that chunk of change later to step up to the next thing.
That's true.
You know, it's best to just kind of put together whatever you can now, if you don't have any speaker system whatsoever, to kind of practice. You know, because the thing is, you're going to need to cut the speaker wire and put it together into the stereo and make sure you're not putting your whites and your reds and you know, all that stuff, and
you're also going to
break the amp.
Yeah, you're also going to need to find out what works for you, and that goes back to the biggest emphasis I can make is that your audio setup only has to sound good for you. And also, you know, don't spend a whole lot of money on speaker wire, and don't buy $300 headphones.
So, you know, just get some crap now, you know, and practice with that, and then step up as, you know, the opportunities come by, and as you teach yourself what you need to know in order to know that you're buying the right thing and getting the thing that's going to work for you. All right, that's it. I think we can close this conversation out.
Yeah. I think it was very good, and I hope that, you know, more people can get into you know, listening to music outside of their, you know, stock iPod earbuds
Or their laptop speakers.
or their laptop speakers, without breaking the bank and without getting snake oil.
Because even if, you know, you don't actually, you know, even if you're just a digital person and you know, aren't exactly trying to go down the whole vinyl, you know, direction, still to have a nice pair of speakers and you know, an amplifier, a hi-fi amplifier is a good investment, you know, to be able to actually feel the music and hear it maybe at a, you know, slightly louder volume than you would on just your headphones or laptop speakers or something like that.
Yeah, and another important thing, your amplifier is going to give you range. It's going to lower your lows and heighten your highs, and that's important.
All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope this very long conversation has been fruitful. I'm like gonna barely edit this. I'm just gonna put everything in there and just let everybody, you know, those who really care and really want to know this stuff are gonna watch the whole video and go out there and try to get a stereo system that works for them.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. It's my pleasure.
Been a good guest.
Yeah, I tried.
He was good in everything. He didn't make any annoyances with me in the green room. He didn't ask for nothing but green M&Ms in his in the ball. I didn't have to feed him or anything. I just had to. just gave him a little. I just gave him a little
water.
bit. I just gave him a little bit of water.
Yeah.
And then he agreed to do this. I couldn't say no. The price was too good. All right, guys. Forever.
Forever.